Perfectionism has emerged as a central concept for understanding individuals' differences across numerous domains of functioning. The study views to research how the views of perfectionism as a personality defect that dispose individuals to set and strive for unrealistic goals for themselves. As defined by Dixon, perfectionism is a kind of obsessive neurosis that drove one to satisfy severe and exacting demands on the one hand, while exposing one to inevitable failure with its resulting self-devaluation, shame, guilt on the other. Directly analyzing to the other previous studies on how subjects viewed perfectionism on a daily basis, Dixon, Lipsey, and Hanshaw wanted to focus the perception of perfectionism through the perspective of adolescents. More specific, more specifically, they wanted to focus on the negative and positive coping mechanism perfectionism could have on gifted adolescents. The role of perfectionism, as described in this literature, could be attributed to invoking negative effects on these gifted students, including mental and physical health determinants such as depression, self-esteem issues, obsessive compulsive disorder, anxiety, panic disorder, and yeah. With the literature analyzing the dysfunctional role that perfectionism has on gifted adolescents, it also identified perfectionism as a multidimensional construct with diverse outcomes that led towards successful and positive adjustments. In fact, they have identified two perspectives to the positive reinforcement roles that perfectionism plays in cognitive development for adolescents. In fact, they have identified two perspectives to the positive reinforcement role that perfectionism plays in cognitive development for adolescents: theoretical and methodical. There you go. Theoretical source can be traced to the seminal work of Adler, who argued that striving for perfection is compatible with normal human development. Adler's conceptualization of perfectionism describes two types of perfectionists: normal, those who strive for excellence and derive a sense of pleasure out of it; and neurotic, those who demand themselves a high levels of performance that cannot be attained, which deprives them of self-esteem, satisfaction, and pleasure. The methodical source can be traced through this recent multidimensional perfectionism scale that assesses and identifies three kinds of perfectionism: orientated perfectionism, socially prescribed perfectionism, and other orientated perfectionism. In this specific literature, they aim to identify the dysfunctional and healthy perfectionists in a sample of gifted adolescents and study the implications of various types of perfectionism. In the method section of the study, they polled participants including 142 juniors, 41 males, 91 females. The participants attended a legislative-supported residential academy for science, mathematics, and humanities. Using a quantitative data collection method, they tried to identify measures of perfectionism: sympathology, positive adjustment, problem, and emotional focused coping. They use the multidimensional perfectionism scale, though, to assess and identify these measures. The cluster for polled data showed a uniformly poor profile of mental health, adjustment, and coping relative to mixed adaptive and non-perfectionists. The mixed adaptive cluster reported greater academic competence and superior adjustment than the non-perfectionist cluster, although these cluster groups were statistically similar to the other dimension of mental health and adjustment. These results suggested that maladaptive perfectionism takes two forms: persuasive and mixed. The two types of perfectionism among gifted adolescents are associated with poor profile of adjustments and mental health. Adolescents who displays high scores pervasively across all dimensions of perfectionism, both adaptive and maladaptive. Adolescents who display high scores on just the maladaptive dimension also report more psychiatric symptoms, a poorer self-image, and a lower sense of personal security and dysfunctional coping compared to adaptive and non-perfectional adolescents.